Hey, what up? It is midnight, and I'm finally getting around to talking about this because I should have spoken about it when it came out. However, I was distracted, okay? But, yeah, the Chamber of Xeric's scouting and scaling changes finally came out after months and months of hyping it up. And, I don't want to be, you know, a dreg about anything, but it's a little disappointing, to be honest. It feels kind of like a bait and switch, like what happened with TOA, where they big up these great changes that are going to come and it's going to be worked on, and then all that happens is they do a monkey change and an Akka change, and we move along and just completely forget about it. I get that there's a dev cycle, but come on. You got to be able to do a bit more than that. Now, I like that we're talking about scouting because it's not a great thing in the game. There's always going to be a meta, sadly, and this right now is the meta. What they're proposing is the ability to choose a fully customized raid here, and you pay 500k GP for whatever raid you want, and they're offering a predefined beginner-friendly raid layout which would exclude Vanguards, Vespula, Vasa, and Tecton, which they claim is the most frequently skipped. I don't know if I agree with Tecton, but the other ones, sure. Especially Vespula and Vanguards. I remember when I was starting out, you just could not get me in those rooms, and you can't get me in normal Vanguards right now. CM Vanguards is fun, but normal, they got too low health. You reset them real easy. Anyway, they're also proposing that you can pay 100k GP for a scale, and for some reason, that goes down every time you add a person. Now, on the surface level, I would say that these, you know, this is a step in the right direction. But if we look at it a bit deeper, paying 500k GP doesn't really change anything, because the problem right now is the scouting system. So what they're saying is, if you don't want to do this terrible thing that is commonly disliked, pay 500k GP to get past it, and that just isn't good. You shouldn't be forced into paying, well, you're not forced, but you understand what I'm saying here. You shouldn't be coerced into sparing 500k GP to have fun at content you enjoy. That's just bad in my opinion. Now, 500k GP, for me, for you, might not be much, but for other people it might be a lot, and I think this really contradicts what they're saying here with trying to get beginners into it, because what you're saying is, when you're past these beginner-friendly raids, if you want to start picking your own raid, you've got to pay 500k GP per raid, and if you're just getting into Cox, you're not, that's going to be a lot of money. You're not going to have 500k GP a raid. Are you kidding me? That's just not realistic, so you're being punished. This 500k GP is punishing people who are not willing to pay. Personally, I don't have a problem with the costs of adding a scaler to the raid, but I don't get why it decreases. Just make it 100k flat, and I also think there should be a cap on this. I'm not here or there whether this should have a cost. I don't care if it does or it doesn't. That's not an issue for me. I think if they are going to go this cost route, though, there should be a cap, like say 1 million, because I mean, some people do big scales, you know. It could get a bit ridiculous, and I think just looking at all these chambers, regardless to my opinion on TOA, it really does make me realize why people love TOA. I may not enjoy it that much, but I get that a lot of people do, and I think it's because you can go into the raid, you can do it in any order you want, with any level of customization you want, and you can just have fun and kick it with the boys. Now, if they just did this for Cox, they just let you pick your scout, no problem, you don't have to pay, gets a bit closer to that. I feel like it'd be more inviting for new players to try it out, but putting a GP tag on the front of it, that just scares them away, to be honest. Now, I can already see the other side of this. Like, something that makes chambers great is the variety of the rooms. And while I would say, sure, if that was true, scouting wouldn't be in it. Like, people wouldn't complain about scouting if people loved, if the majority of people loved chambers for variety. Scouting wouldn't be complained about anywhere near as much. But it does bring me on to something that I think that they should do first. They should fix the rooms that people hate first. Wouldn't it make more sense to fix the rooms that people have issues with before you address the rotation of the rooms themselves? That would just make more sense to me. I mean, we start off with Tecton. In a normal raid and in a CM. In a solo scale, it's just got too much defense. Especially in a CM, it's just got way too much defense. And solo CMs are incredible content, incredibly fun, incredibly deep. I absolutely love them, and I can't, like, express to people who want to get into solos and you've got a bit of experience to try out CMs. They're incredibly fun. Just reduce Tecton's defense a bit and it becomes great. I also think that they should remove Tecton's ability to regen defense completely at the anvil and passively. If you're going to give him a ton of defense, don't let him reduce it after I've landed a hammer, please. I also don't think he should heal at the anvil. Why does he need to heal at the anvil? Just make the meteor phase a point and click. Chambers is like, what, 5 years old now? You can say it's end-game content, but it's not difficult, you know? I think it's for people who are a bit more laxed, and it would be fine to do that. We did that. We get past the Tecton problem. We move on to crabs, which, for me personally, I think there should only be like 2 layouts of crabs. The CM crabs, which are absolutely fantastic. Everyone loves them, or you hate them. And then another one. I forget the name of it, but yeah, there's another one where it's like pretty cool to set up, and it's like the rotation of the room. Or we could just go with 1 crab rooms. There are bad crabs needs to go, where the crabs spawn at the other side of the room and it takes ages for the thing to, the little orb to bounce. I think that should be scrapped completely. Where the crabs spawn in the room based on the compass as well should be also... It should be solidified, it should be made always the same every single time. After crabs, I would say that scavengers also need a lookup. Now, if you've ever played an Iron Man, or if you've ever prepped, you know what I'm talking about here, where you're scavenging for like 10 minutes and you just can't get that juice. Now, what I'm saying is... Excuse me, I just burped. Now, what I'm saying is, why don't they drop resources in a cycle? You know how this is in a rotation? Why don't we do this for the scavenger drops? So say it's a 1 in 3 circle, right? So on the first kill you have a drop of being Sicily, juice, and mushrooms. Say it drops mushrooms, now the next drop is either Sicily or juice. Then you get Sicily, that means it's always juice. And you circle it like that, so there's no way you can go dry on something. I think that's an absolutely essential change to Chambers. That would make not scouting, that would make the raid itself so much more enjoyable. Team raids, solo raids, anything that involves prepping. That makes it great. I don't get why it's randomized. No one likes the RNG of scavs. No one is going into Chambers to do scavs. Muttadile as well is... I couldn't believe when I read this that there was nothing about Muttadile. I thought, you know, we'll get scouting changes and they'll talk about Muttadile. Muttadile, in my opinion, is easily the worst boss in the game. CM Muttadile is so ridiculous. If you have done CMs, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, people don't forget their first time in CM Mutt, where they get put down. It shouldn't be able to hit me a 53 stood in melee distance. It shouldn't be able to range me and hit me a 53 when I'm stood in melee distance with it praying melee. That should not be a thing. Now, what I'd like to see happen with that is simply just allow me to flick the range attack. Allow me to flick the range attack, and that's now no longer an issue, and add skill depth to the room. I think that's great. It also needs consistency in the way that it moves and it attacks. And I know that we're going to get comments, or like, I probably won't get comments about it, but still, this is what I think. I know that someone will say like, oh, spaghetti code, you know, it's an old game. I'm done taking the spaghetti code excuse anymore. The game has been out 10 years. If you are not competent with your own code, That's down to the developers. Muttadile sometimes will look at you, he'll smile at you, he'll say, you know what boy, I'll let you shoot me all you want, no problems whatsoever. You drill me away. And other times, he'll come at you like a Gatling gun. He will rip you to pieces. Why is that? Why does that happen? You can go into Mutt and use nothing or use everything. That needs to be changed. Why is he walking away from me sometimes? Why is he always going backwards? Just make it consistent. Make him stick to me. Make him attack me the same amount of, well, the same amount of times as he normally does, instead of wandering around, or I don't know what he does. He rolls around like a little badger, you know, a little beaver on the floor, a little green good boy. Can't wait to get him as a pet. Anyway, Ice Demon should also be touched up. Now, I'm not particularly sure on how you make Ice Demon, in quotation marks, good. I would just say give it a point boost. Just make it so that the people that want to do Ice Demon, they at least get something for their slower room. Just give it more points than it currently does. Screw it. If you want to do the learner raids, then let them have a bit more points for Ice Demon. And the same goes for thieving. Why does thieving give 0 grubs? I think thieving, if you successfully pickpocket the chest, or open the chest, you should always get a grub. And that's how the scaling should go. It should be like 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 grubs based on thieving levels we have now. I'm not really sure what the brackets are at the moment, but I know at a certain point you can no longer get 1 grub, so you either get 0, 2, or 3, or like if you do Squirk and Cape, you can get more. But I don't think you should be able to get 0. That room is horrible. How many times have you gone into thieving and gone like 0 for 15 on opening chests? That's the room. I think what people are most upset about this, who've been waiting for this for a long time, is that it's been overhyped and underdelivered again. We've waited months for this talked about Chamber of Xerix changes, and all we're talking about is scouting, not the raid itself? What's been going on? Like I say, I don't want to pile on to the devs, but like, what has been going on? This has been a weird year for updates. It's been a really weird year. I thought we'd gotten out of the dark ages, like 2019 till 2021. The dark times, in my opinion, of RuneScape, you know, just dark times, nightmare, crap updates, and thought with the release of what we've had in the past 18 months, we're on the rise again. And it just seems to be slowing down. Like, this year we've had 2 good updates, in my opinion. I guess you could say Muspa's alright. I don't like Muspa, but it's whatever. It's just inconsistent, you know? I don't understand what is happening. What are they working on? Who knows? Maybe there's something they're not telling us. I also think that in regards to challenge mode raids, they should balance it like hard mode top. Why don't we change the looting structure of CMs? Give it a bit of love. Reduce the rate of scrolls in a CMs like a Vernix are in hard mode top, so that you can actually get other items. If you look at the weighting of scrolls at chambers, it is ungodly heavy for the scrolls. Now, if we change that for CMs and say that they're slightly lower weighted compared to everything else, that'd be great. It would give CMs a reason to be done. I mean, obviously there's a reason to be done if you like them. I love them. But it would give them more of an incentive, you know. I don't think, personally, the valuation of items would be too affected by removing scouting or in CMs reducing the rate of scrolls, because the items stay valuable, so their prices stay high. Look at how long the T-Bar has been in the game, Ancestral's been in the game. Right now, the valuation of those items is probably the highest they've ever been. It's crazy how expensive Ancestral is, and if you look at how long it takes, and you could go, okay, well, if you reduce the time it takes to get these items, it's going to fall, then why does a Shadow that takes 140 hours cost 1.5 bill, and a T-Bar that takes 600 cost 1.5 bill? It's because they're useful. If the items have use, they will stay high. I don't see a likelihood of the items dropping. I mean, of course they'll go down because as content has been out longer, items are bound to fall. There'll also be panic sellers. You can't control those things and other variables in the market and whatnot. These things are not for certain, but I don't think it's inherently a bad thing to do. It's all just a bit lackluster, really. It's a real shame. After such a good update like Desert Treasure 2, I think it was a fantastic update. All the bosses, in my opinion, are great. I was really looking forward to these chambers. I think a lot of people know that in the communities that I hang out in, that I haven't been playing lately, but I've been excited to come back and I've been waiting for this change, and this is it. This is it. 500k GP for raid, I think is just too much, man. For me, it's nothing. For others, it's a lot. Just make it free. Let people have fun. It's a game. I think we forget that sometimes. And if you feel differently about this, please let me know, man. It's always good to get a different perspective on these things. I wouldn't say I'm disheartened by the lack of thought put into this, but when you look at how much is actually wrote here, it just feels like a lot of waffle. They could have said this in 2 paragraphs, like this shit up here. Well, you can't even see my mouse. This shit up here, these 4 paragraphs, like, people already don't read, man. People don't read. I think you should have you should add a TLDR in the future to all your blogs on everything you post, Jagex. Give a TLDR for people who don't have 20 minutes to read this shit. I think that would also help a lot. Anyway, I'm gonna go, I don't know, eat some crab rangoon or something. I'll post the next video in 6 months. Peace!